We are on a mission to save and revitalize independent pharmacy.
On the Catalyst Pharmacy podcast, you'll get actionable business advice.
Hear stories from industry leaders.
And share a laugh or two with us.
Fuel your passion for pharmacy.
One conversation at a time.
4,
3,
2,
1. Ignition.
Welcome to the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Key, president of PioneerRx, and today I'm here with Marsha.
Hi, I'm Marsha Bivins, Director of Marketing for PioneerRx. Today we have Dan Benamoz, the founder of PDS, Pharmacy Development Services.
In PDS style, we have some pre-music going on. We listened to I Want It All, and we listened to some Bleed It Out, and discussed how that was her daughter's pump-up song at kindergarten, and we talked about what a bad parent Marsha was.
No, that was
soccer.
Mark that started that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So with that song, but hey, we gotta all have goals to be better parents. That's true. So we were in here earlier, and Madison was like, "Oh yeah, I'm excited about Dan. He's awesome." Because when we were prepping him, he's like, "Oh, my alcohol delivery's here. I gotta stop." So,
my wine delivery. Got to sign for those personally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We've learned to have that delivered to the office, right, where somebody gets to sign for it. And
then we just have to carry it down the elevators and home.
That way we're covered.
So speaking of wine, I actually get my club delivery this week, I think. So is yours a club from a specific vineyard, or is it?
No. You know what it is our CEO, our new CEO is a wine connoisseur. And he and I get together every Monday night, often at my house, and I'll make the dinner and he brings the wines. And or if we go out to eat, he'll order the wines. And then there's this app called Vivino.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar.
You can take a picture of the bottle and it'll source it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And tell you all about it. So if I like it, I can just, I take a picture of it and then I just order a few bottles for the house. And so,
yep.
He took me before him. I was like a Costco $15 to $22 bottle of wine type of guy. He has brought me into the $50 to $60 range, and they are so much better.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of weeks ago, he brought a $225 bottle of wine. And I said, "You're crazy. There's no way I'm spending $225 on a bottle of wine.
I don't want to like this. I'm not going to like it, right?
Not with my palate."
So what did you think about the 220?
It was good. It was fine.
And there's absolutely no shame in the Costco $15, $20 range. I mean, we all started out in the, $15 to $20 range before we got a little more broader in our taste buds.
What do you find in the 50 to 60?
Oh yeah.
What do you find in that range? What would be your recommend that was really good?
Well, one of my favorites is Bella Gloss.
Bella Gloss?
Well, hang on. I'm going to take this a little more broader. So when we're talking about your style, your taste on wine, are we talking like Malbecs, Tempernios? I mean, what grape are we talking here?
I love Malbecs. I like Pinot Noirs. Cabernet Sauvignons are good. I love red wine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I definitely am a red wine guy, red blends, things like that. Shirazes, Syrahs, the big thing I noticed about the more expensive wines is I have this cool little thing. Facebook I'd have been a multimillionaire if it wasn't for Facebook. I buy all that crap. They got me nailed. But there was a device, a decanter, that you push the button and for 5 minutes it swirls it a certain way to aerate it out.
Okay.
Beautiful. And then I have a little filter that when I pour the wine into that to catch any sediment.
Mm-hmm.
And with the cheaper bottles of wine, there's a lot more sediment. With the better quality wines, a lot less sediment. I've even seen in some of the cheaper ones, like chunks of stuff. I was like, what's that?
So the Bella Gloss is a what? Is it a cab?
That's a Pinot Noir.
Pinot Noir.
Okay. Yeah, we're kind of on a Tempranillo kick.
Yeah, I like the spiciness in a Tempranillo.
Yeah.
That's a new.
I love Tempranillos, just the peppery spice at the end for like steaks or especially Mexican food.
Yeah, and you actually grow Tempranillos in Texas. There's a really good Texas Tempranillo that we get at a restaurant here that's outstanding.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look into it. Isn't Shiraz kind of
Spicy?
a little bit?
It is. It is. It's. But I think it moves a little more into like the spicy and kind of drier than a Tempranillo. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I started off the whole world of wine really with Pioneer, really going, hey, I'm going to buy cabs when I'm out because I need to know a good cab to buy if I, have customers or have other vendors or something out. And so it was Napa cabs. You got to narrow on something and trying the ones that they have out and pretty much narrowed down to like Faust, the standards like Faust or
Oberon,
Oberon.
B-side.
But now I've done
delicious.
that and now trying to kind of venture out and try more like Malbecs and Tempranillos and
Malbecs and Meritage. I like Meritage.
Yeah. It's funny how your tastes kind of adjust and kind of change.
Yeah.
Mature.
Yes.
I went through a stage where I loved Pinot Noirs and now I'm kind of more into Tempranillo.
Yeah. With wine, I think it's more of just your taste kind of matures with it because everybody starts off in the like
Boone's Farm.
Sweet wine.
The Boone's Farm, and then we moved in the dessert.
I did too.
Yep.
I did too.
We're all guilty of Boone's Farm here and there.
It was a date wine.
99 cents.
It was a date wine.
How much did you pay for it? I paid 99
I don't know. I don't remember. It couldn't have been much because I was poor.
I mean, if you can get it at 7-Eleven.
Yeah, it couldn't have been much because I was poor.
Yeah. But I mean, I think everybody kind of starts off with their Boone's Farm, then they move on to the dessert wines, then they kind of move into Chardonnays, and then that's like, okay, now we're going to start trying some more whites. I mean, my parents are they're still in the dessert wine phase and slowly moving into Chardonnays, but the whites, they're like, oh, how can you drink that? And I'm like, because it's wonderful.
Are you a beer drinker?
I like dark beers.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't, the taste I haven't been able to establish. And I always feel like there was two things. First out of college.
I don't know. Is that true? Because there was a food and wine thing it was a food tour that we did in South Beach. And they took us to this bar and gave us empanadas and then gave us the beer that is so popular there. And it was basically, they mixed two beers and it basically tasted like peach sangria.
Right. So I like beer that doesn't taste like beer is what you're saying.
Yeah. But you still drink beer and you liked it.
Yeah, I did.
I almost gave up beer until my brother-in-law introduced me to the darker beers.
Okay.
And so I'm not a big beer drinker, and I really am not an alcohol drinker. But having said that,
let's clarify that.
CEO Chip, huh?
We'll clarify that. Dan's not really an alcohol drinker, so.
No, I like wine, but I don't drink hard liquor.
I gotcha.
And of course, Chip, our new CEO, brought over last week. He made a drink with Don Julio Blanco tequila.
Ouch.
With Domaine de Canton, which is a French like ginger liqueur, kind of tasted a little bit like a margarita mix, and some lime. Huh. And I hadn't eaten all day. I'm trying to do keto.
That's never good.
So you don't have to eat 3 meals a day. And so anyway, I hadn't eaten yet. I was still, just firing up the grill, and he made this for me. And I took a couple sips of it, and I'm buzzing already. And I said, oh my God, I could only drink one of these and before I am totally wasted. But that was delicious. And I'll tell you one other drink that I've always loved, and that is Bailey's Irish Cream and Amaretto.
Yeah.
Okay.
Equal parts. That is on the rocks. That is phenomenal.
So one of my favorites that it is so, actually two of my favorites, and they both use Bailey's. Well, no, that's not true. One is Bailey's. One is Bailey's for sure. And it's a hot chocolate. It's called
they call it Challenger's chocolate.
They call it Challenger's chocolate. And it's hot chocolate.
There's a lift in Montana.
With Bailey's, creamed cocoa, and Stoley's vanilla. It is so deliciously smooth, but then like after one, you're like, I feel pretty good.
So how does one become friends with Chip? Chip sounds like a really cool guy.
Apparently, it's a bottle of tequila.
Maybe you bring he's bringing the alcohol. You just had to bring the food. I'm like thinking. I don't mean to kind of upscale on you, Dan. Like I don't know what's that called. Like kind of friend to get to a friend. But like how do I meet Chip?
Well, you know what you know. For the best way to meet him is to come visit him and have him take you out for dinner.
Yeah.
and you're there.
And y'all are in Orlando. I need to do that.
Or come to South Florida. Come to my house. We'll make a little barbecue or something. And
so where are you in South Florida?
Chips. I'm in Boca Raton.
Okay.
Do you scuba?
Do I? No, I don't.
Don't scuba.
I don't scuba.
I was about to ask, is there any good dive locations around your area?
All south of there is the Keys, which is beautiful.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of coral, a lot of good diving spots. I'll tell you, there are 3 movies in my lifetime that have absolutely traumatized me to death. The first one was Jaws.
Okay.
I'm still scared to go into the
I think that traumatized everyone.
Yeah.
The second one that traumatized me to death, I mean, I was so afraid I couldn't even open the door to let the dog out to pee one night, was Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
That scared the living daylights.
Go ahead, Marsha. What are you going to say?
Not touching that one.
Not touching that one? Okay.
I always make a joke, and he's like, don't do that. That's creepy. And that's
she does a little fava beans thing.
The fava beans.
Like, no, we're done for today.
And the other one was the Slumdog Millionaire, where they burned out the children's eyes to blind them so that they could get more while they were begging.
Ow. No.
That just, you know.
All right, so when we're sharing traumatizing movies, me, Pet Sematary, number 1.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I don't watch those things.
I don't go there. I have to be slipped in to be scared.
In the living room, and I really didn't have a choice. And I was 10 at the time, and I was just like, I was done.
Yeah.
And then anything with zombies, I cannot do zombies.
Yeah, she didn't do zombies.
I'm not
Escape rooms with zombies. Nothing with zombies.
Nope.
Nothing at all.
You know what else was pretty traumatizing? Because I have 2 daughters, and one who's just graduating from the University of Florida in December. And she loves to travel, and I let her travel pretty much anywhere she wants to go.
This is the one we had dinner with, yes?
Is that the one we had dinner with?
Probably.
The black
hair. The last PDS?
Yeah. I loved her. Go ahead. So you let her travel. Amazing. She loves to travel.
The movie Taken.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That just scared the Jesus out of me.
Huh.
So. Yeah.
So we need to visit Dan in Boca Raton, and we need to invite Chip over.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do.
And we need to bring some tequila because Chip likes
alcohol. No.
Well, I have several guest rooms. If you're going to spend an evening with Chip and truly spend it, you might want to bring an overnight bag.
And Tylenol.
I love it. All right, so let's get so much of Dan, we hear you're talking about other people. You're talking about you've done so much in your life to help other people make money and be successful. But
and really to help independent pharmacy grow and be successful.
But let's just pause a little before we maybe get into some of that history and just kind of give us a background. How did you get into this and tell us a little bit about your journey toward PDS and what you've done along the way?
Well, I got to tell you, I just came back this weekend from my 40th college reunion.
Wow.
40th college reunion. And there were a lot of people there who were celebrating their 50th and 51st because they didn't get a chance to celebrate their 50th last year. And I got to tell you, I felt like I was dining in the dining room of a nursing home. It was frightening. And I said, geez, I hope I look better than that. You know, I guess to be completely transparent, I kind of wanted to go and see how I was aging compared to everybody else.
Isn't that why we all go to reunions?
This is the thing that everybody thinks and nobody says, right? So Dan said it here today on Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast, right? He said, you were going there to see how we aged.
Well, I mean, that's why most people go to reunions, is to see how they've aged better than others. But now we've got Facebook, so I've never been to any of my reunions.
So how did you do? How were you holding up?
Oh yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, I took my dinner and I went and I sat at the students' table, the students who were volunteering for the event, to talk to them. And I ended up doing what I always do with young kids. I said, your objective when you go to school is to, I start out and I say, the problem is the way we raise people in this country, work hard, get good grades so you can get into a good college, so you can get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, retire with a pension, and that's how it's supposed to be. And I said, but there's no more pensions anymore.
Right.
And, why climb the corporate ladder as opposed to why not own it?
Huh.
Why not own it? It's a major shift. I always say that we're 6 inches away from greatness, and that 6 inches is between our ears.
Yeah.
And if you shift your thinking, and I had a profound moment with some of the members I work very closely with still, where they were talking about growing their business, and I said, I don't want you to look for 10 to 15% growth. I want you to start thinking, if you're a $6 million company, I want you to think like a $60 million company.
Wow.
And what are we going to do what do we have to do to get there?
Right.
And you will far exceed your 10 to 15% if you change your perspective. You change your perspective, you change your reality. And, programs like this are great, because they let people know about opportunities. And I know this is a tough time, that reimbursements are being cut, but they've always been declining.
Right.
This isn't anything new. I remember, 15 years ago, people were pining for the good old days. And now 15 years ago was the good old days.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And so we're kind of in that right now. But, I want the kids to shift into thinking, I guess I have to fill you in with my background. And that is I had 2 immigrant parents. My father went as far as the 8th grade, and then he went because where he was living, he couldn't afford to go on to the high school, which is kind of the equivalent of college.
Okay.
Right.
Back then. He couldn't afford it. Then he got injured in the war very severely and survived that.
Which war?
And he fought in World War II, but he also, when he got injured in, was the Israeli War of Independence.
Okay.
Okay, which that's a remarkable story in and of itself. But after he got well, he went, because back then Palestine was under British rule. So he went and got his British equivalency. He did his British equivalency exam, which is equivalent to the GED. He did so well that he got a scholarship offer to a university in Israel known as the Technion. Have you ever heard of the Technion?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
It's Israel's equivalent to MIT.
Wow.
He then got his he got a scholarship to go to the University of Michigan, where he got his master's, and he got his PhD from Penn. So my 8th grade educated father, and he was actually a rocket scientist. He worked on the Apollo program.
Crazy.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, it all sounds great, except for the fact that we lived in constant fear of layoffs. The stress in the house was palpable. I mean, it was a tough way. And it was back then in my early teens, and I'm watching all this play out. And eventually the Apollo program ended. And, he got the first job offer he got was to go back to teach at the Technion. And I'm thinking, I don't want to move to Israel. I'm living in South Jersey. I'm born here. I'm an all-American kid. I play baseball.
Yep.
I don't want to go to another country. So I became very patriotic, because that became a very, very real possibility for me.
Yeah.
And at the last minute, he got hired by General Electric in Schenectady, New York. So I ended up going to high school and college in upstate New York. And I'll tell you, I've got a great line for the Chamber of Commerce for Florida. You don't have to shovel sunshine.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
I was reading a book on.
Hang on. I'm going to pause you there.
Okay, pause me.
You just came back from 40-year reunion. What was your degree in?
A bachelor's of science in pharmacy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a pharmacist.
Yep.
And, it's an honorable and noble and very proud profession. I'm honored to be in it. Like the baseball players would say, baseball's been very good to me. I was like, pharmacy has been very good to me.
Very good. So where I was going, interesting, I was reading a book, and it's actually on managing creatives. And it talked about how stress, kind of like not being comfortable, leads to innovation. Right.
Yes.
And that as we get too comfortable in our lives, we become less innovative because we don't need to. Right. When we're comfortable and happy, we're not finding fire. We're not moving out of the cave. And, imagine you thought about this. You said, hey, we lived under this constant stress of layoffs and stuff. But that kind of energy, leads to innovation. And,
Right.
and then thinking about pharmacists are under a lot of stress. Right. But, and trying to get them out incremental growth, 1, 2, 3, shooting for that, it doesn't feel risky. Right. The shooting for doubling growth sounds risky. And we're teaching everybody to avoid risk and be less risky. So how do we want to think about how we help people try to strive for risk and try to be uncomfortable and realize that leads to creativity. But let's go on with, all right, so we're at your dad. We're in New York.
Right. Well, because of that, I knew very early I wanted to be in a profession that I got to control my own future. I didn't want somebody else, worrying if somebody else was going to lay me off. I love the responsibility of having employees and being responsible for other people. And
nice.
That's a great honor. That's a great privilege, and something I'm very proud of. One of the great personal accomplishments I've had, how we've seen so many people grow and thrive and work in a safe conditions. But anyway, so I decided to go into pharmacy school because it was a profession. I wanted to be a professional, and it was honorable, and you could make an okay living. I mean, when I graduated in 1981, if you graduated and your first job was your age times $1,000, you were doing well. So if you were 23 years old, making $23,000, and the first year I worked so hard because I couldn't get away from poverty fast enough. I worked a lot of overtime. I made $37,000 that year.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And then I said something that everybody can relate to is, boy, if I could make $50,000, I'd be really happy.
Yep.
Then I made $50,000, and I said, boy, if I could make 75 and then 100 and and it kept changing.
Right.
And the interesting thing about that is it's like chasing the horizon.
Yep.
You can see the horizon, but you can never get to it. And to me, happiness, the example I was giving you, that I'll be really happy when. And if you're chasing the horizon because you can't get to the horizon, you'll never be happy. So the way to be happy that I've looked at it, how do you define what happiness is? And for me, it's gratitude. It's gratitude. It's not looking about if I achieve this, I'll be really happy, but look at where we started and where we are now.
Absolutely.
And look backwards and get gratitude. And that's what happiness is. And through all the success that, takes a lot of hard work and a ton of luck to be successful. And, it's such a great opportunity for the pharmacy owners who own their own businesses to control their futures and their families' success. It's within their own grasp. But my late wife and I, we always kept saying to ourselves, we're just a pharmacist and a social worker. And that's how we kept grounded. And, yes, I live in Boca Raton. Yes, I love living down here. I enjoy a lot of privileged things, but I appreciate them. I don't take them for granted. And I think it's important to stay humble and be appreciative of what you have, and how much more we've accomplished. And so as far as the pharmacy owners go, people go into pharmacy for one or two reasons. I think primarily one, either to make more money, or two, to own their job.
Yep.
They want to own their job. And when you have a business that works because of you, you don't have a business that's really saleable. And for a lot of people, these stores are their golden parachutes to retirement. And but if you can develop your business in such a way that it works for you and not because of you. I've got 10 stores right now. They're all open right now. They're all doing transactions. I'm sitting here having a good time talking to you guys.
Yep.
That's something you can sell. And that is freedom too, that you don't have to be there every day. And, getting back to your very first question, one of the things that got me to where I am is when I went the typical path. Well, maybe not typical, but I had an opportunity to do some things. I have a patent that technically qualifies me to call myself an inventor for the transdermal application of steroids with ultrasound, which is
don't try that on the ladies at the bar, guys. Sorry.
No, it's a nice little certificate hanging up in my mother's house.
I love it.
But it actually was very successful. It was my first venture into doing something on my own, and then it led me to buy my first store. And one of the things, I started out like most people working for the chains I worked for Rite Aid for almost 10 years out of school. And they don't teach you anything. They're not going to teach you how to compete against them. They're not going to teach you or encourage you to go out and turn into competition. And you're the one who has the relationships.
Yep.
Right.
So they're not going to teach you those things. So people make the assumption that they did that they know. They make the mistake of thinking, just because I know how to do the technical work of a business means that I know how to run a business that does that technical work. So just because you know how to cut hair doesn't mean you know how to run a salon. Just because you know how to fix heating and air conditioning doesn't mean you know how to run a business that does that. And I've always said
True story.
Owning a business and being a pharmacist are two very separate and distinct full-time jobs. And it was hard. I worked my butt off in my first pharmacy for a couple of years, and it grew, but nothing spectacular, to the point where I said, I give up. I'm going to hire somebody and hire somebody full-time to work the bench, and I'm going to go find something else to do, and I'm going to take the cut and pay, whatever it was. And that really was a major turning point in my life. I made that kind of out of frustration by mistake, and I'd kind of given up a little bit. And then what happened is I started going out, calling on nursing homes, long-term care facilities. I built a huge operation that way. So sometimes you have to step back to move forward.
So what was the turning point that made you start PDS and all of this in this learning experience?
Actually, I was genuinely pissed off about something. And, when I got the call.
Dan, got a little dirty Harry going on. I was pissed off.
What's that?
I said, Dan got a channel a little dirty Harry there. He got pissed off. So tell us about that.
Oh, big time. What got me upset was that the night I got the phone call that my offer was accepted and I was going to own a pharmacy, I'll never forget the moment. I thought to myself, you'd think I'd be excited, but I was nervous because I said to myself, there's something out there that I don't know, and I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so like everybody, I went to the most expensive business school on the planet. You know, more expensive than Harvard, more expensive than Stanford or Wharton. Do you know what business school that is?
That's the Hard Knocks Business School. That's
the trial
and error business school. Yep.
You know, trial and error. And the first thing that I realized I didn't know was finance. I didn't know about financial statements, and I hired a mentor and really taught it to me in such a way that a light bulb went on. And now I teach a class in finance, and I can teach people I don't teach them how to do accounting. I want them to understand how to read the financials so that they can make business decisions in a more timely manner, because things will appear that you can see in your financials long before they manifest themselves to the naked eye. Mm-hmm. So that was the huge revelation. And what I got upset about really was, how could the pharmacy school put us out into the world so ill prepared for the business of business?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was talking to the dean at my reunion. I'm sure he was looking at ways to get me to write a check. And he says, "Oh, do you want to have your name on this building or that building?" I was like, that doesn't really do anything for me. And we got talking about entrepreneurship. And he said, "Well, what do you think if we start an entrepreneur program? And would you be willing to participate? We can make an adjunct professor." And I'm like, "Oh."
You're like, he's got me now. He's got me now. Yeah.
So the idea of, teaching finance from the beginning. Well, anyway, once I learned what I didn't know, I became, I'm not going to say a public speaker, I became an independent pharmacy activist.
Right.
I was out there trying, get myself out in as many events as I could to share the story of what I had discovered that we hadn't been taught in pharmacy school. And what happened that I wasn't expecting, I just wanted to be like an evangelist and share what I had learned that everybody didn't know.
Yep.
And to this day, by the way, 98% of small business owners, and I'm not just talking pharmacy, I'm talking all small business owners, don't know how to read a financial statement.
Yep.
And, if one simple question I can ask people to see if they need our help at PDS is, what three reports make up a financial statement?
Mm-hmm.
And they usually almost all get the P&L. 50% get the balance sheet, and 1% maybe get the statement of cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
Or understand.
I got money in the bank. What do I need to look at the statement of cash flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all your listeners, I'll tell you, all your viewers here can relate to this. That famous call that we've all gotten from the accountant says, "I've got good news and I got bad news. What do you want first?"
I thought every accountant started the call like that. That's not. I thought all accountants started the call.
That's
like
what he
that.
said. All right, so go ahead.
So what's the good news?
Yeah, give me the good news.
Is you made a lot of money last year.
Yep.
And he said, "Great. What's the bad news? You owe a lot in taxes." How much do I owe in taxes? $40,000. What?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have $40,000. How's that possible? That happens. I think everybody, I bet if we could turn the cameras on your viewers, they'll all be nodding their heads.
Yeah, that was me.
They've all gotten that call.
Or it's a DR fees now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, but there's ways to mitigate everything.
Yep.
There's ways to mitigate things, a right way. And pharmacy is changing dramatically right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to be, some chat groups or whatever are calling on the, thinking that PDS is in its demise. And I was like, no, we're transforming. We're transforming.
Just like
we want to be ahead of that change.
Yep.
And bring that to people. We are working on things, services now. services. This is changing from a primary. You will always be dispensing. However, there will be other services now that, by our accounts, an average pharmacy doing, let's say, $4.5 million of revenue, an average pharmacy can add about $500,000 a year in gross profit. You know, you're only labor, just doing services.
Huh. What are some examples? Just give us a couple. Tease us.
Well, you know, certainly point of care testing.
Yep.
Is one of them. We have point of care testing. We have
the pharmacogenomics. That was a vendor that was there.
Pharmacogenomics. We also have remote patient engagement programs. I mean, you can make some very good money, and it doesn't even have to be a pharmacist doing it. You know, just starting with your patients with diabetes and if they have hypertension or obesity, I mean, you're looking at potentially $330 a month in revenue, providing an hour a month of follow-up with them. So
and to speak kind of true to your, you know, the remote patient interaction, you know, there's diet programs that they just send you their kit and then they go, great, you're going to meet with me. We're going to have a video chat once a week and this is your homework. And it's really expecting the patient to be accountable. Like, you got to weigh yourself every day. Here's a blood pressure cuff. Here's, you know, the oxygenator to check your oxygen levels. And they want you to like check that stuff. Like, one diet program actually comes with a measurement that they want, a tape measure that they want you to like.
Yeah, pharmacists do that.
Yeah. I mean, why do these diet programs can't be worked through pharmacies? You know, more importantly, why are these dietitian programs not working with pharmacies? I mean, the whole point of getting their health back up to scale is to help with their diabetes, to help with their blood pressure, to lower all that stuff. Yeah.
You know, I ran into met a guy when we were at Florida Pharmacy Association who doesn't dispense. His total model is service. No, it's just service.
Oh, just service. That's
it's
right.
People who are on complicated medical groups of medications. It was funny because he was coming by the booth saying, you know, I'm thinking about getting into dispensing. But his whole model for 10 years has been totally around services and making a good business on it. So it's certainly doable.
Well, and I think, listen, there's always a silver lining to everything. And this pandemic has really advanced the cause of pharmacists as providers and practitioners more than all the lobbying we've done for years. Now people routinely go to think about going to their pharmacies for getting tested for this or getting tested for that. And we're getting to a point. Deloitte did a study on future of retail pharmacy, and they said point of care testing revenue is going to be exceeding immunization revenue, and will be a driver of the revenue for the stores. So things like COVID. Hey, listen.
Yep.
As much, I hate to say this, physician friends, a lot of people I'm hearing, this thing's going to be around for at least another 18 to 24 months. Mm-hmm. And who knows what other variant strains are going to emerge. And so, we are now, we have to be immunizing. And people who did immunizations did really, really well.
Right. Yep.
Doing that, took advantage. Of course, people who are early adopters saw the opportunity, and we had a fellow with a small store that wasn't, I think it might have been doing $3 million in revenue total. In March of 2020, for probably 7 or 8 months, he was doing $500,000 a month in front-end sales in, personal protection equipment, masks, gloves, and he was sourcing it from all over, Alibaba or wherever he could find it. And he was just cranking it. He was just cranking it out. And there's actually a number of people with stories stories like that. But now we can do not only point of care testing, patient care services. I'll tell you, I think there's another huge opportunity out there right under people's noses. And this is another thing that kind of got me angry is that, where are people buying their vitamins from? These stores that sell vitamins with kids behind them and are kicking our butts in the pharmacy. And, I think the problem is number one, I know when I was in pharmacy school that they didn't teach much on vitamins back then because they said everything was fortified. And the only people who really needed to take supplements in this country were people on chemo and alcoholics. Huh. But that was the prevailing thought in the 70s.
Right.
But now I really believe there's a huge opportunity. We should be looking to hire nutritionists to work in the stores and to go out and talk to the patients. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stores that now get $100, $110 per counseling session with the nutritionist, and not to mention what their sales are for their supplements. And price only matters when no other differences exist. They don't understand the difference between a cheap supplement and a better quality one. What's the difference? And just educating people so that they can make a more informed buying decision. That's not selling. Right. That's helping people. Mm-hmm. And the kind of, I've had a lot of pharmacists tell me, I don't like to sell. And I said, well, what you're talking about is the kind of selling when you try to get people to buy things that they don't want or need. And when you're doing that kind of selling, you're doing something to someone. Right. But when you're helping people, you're doing something for them.
Yep. And I wonder, are there point of care tests for your vitamin levels? Right? Could the pharmacy do like, hey, come in once every 3 months, we're going to measure your vitamin D level, we're going to do a blood test, and maybe that's super cheap. And then we know whether or not, okay, so now we're going to up your D dosage from what you're taking as a supplement.
Yeah. Oh, totally. That's when we talk of point of care testing, those are things as well. I know there's, meters. I've seen meters. I forget what they're called, oximeters or whatever they're called, where you put your hand against them and it measures your antioxidant levels. Okay. That type of thing. But yeah, vitamin D. We have so many people suffering from depression or mood swings or whatever.
Well, and COVID. A lot of COVID complications. They're saying we're low on D, and you don't want to take too much. Yeah. And so one thing is I was thinking, I wish there was a way that I could, and I guess I could go down to the Quest or whatever, and once every 3 months do a D test. But imagine if I could do that in my pharmacy when I was going in there anyway.
Yeah, and you can. There'll be COVID testing, strep, flu, food sensitivities, vitamin D. That's the kind of testing that we'll be doing in the pharmacies. Yeah. And those are going to be, I'll tell you, people to use, since we were talking earlier about wines, to use a wine analogy, people who do things the way they've always been done are living off of the vine and throwing away the fruit. Yep. They're throwing away the grapes.
So very interesting, the story about PDS. You say, well, PDS is declining. Well, yeah, that thing PDS was doing yesterday is declining. That's why we're here, is to help you figure out what you're going to do next, right? What are you guys doing next? We don't know what we're doing next. Well, who's going to help you with that? Well, PDS, right? So that is, yes, everything's in decline until you recreate and reinvent yourself. And you guys have to be kind of ahead of everybody else inventing yourself.
Right.
I kind of realized from Steve Jobs, who was making his own products obsolete before any competitors could, that you have to invest in research and development. And all those things, are investments in the future. And, if you're trying to turn around a company and want to improve profitability, the first thing that gets cut is research and development, but you're giving away the future. Yep. And PDS learned that lesson the hard way after I took a diminished role in the organization. But now they figured it out. Now they understand, because I've always been a huge proponent of research and development and the importance. You don't have a future without it. And so, it's, what you were talking about things that are diminished. Yeah, there was a time, it was like the Roaring '20s, and they've happened several times in the last 20 years where we've had monster size upswings, cyclical upswings in profitability for different things that we've been able to do well with. The one that we had most recently with therapeutic optimization, people were making hundreds and hundreds of dollars of profit on prescriptions, while the industry was making $8 or $9 on prescriptions. Mm-hmm. And for the PDS members during that period, it was a huge windfall. Well, they say it doesn't work anymore. And, a lot of those $100, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 wins are gone. Right. Are gone. Mm-hmm. But there's $30 wins. There's $40 wins. They're in abundance. And people, because they can't make hundreds, gave up on the process. And I don't understand the logic of that. But you can still do things. Mm-hmm. Just in some instances, it can be just something as simple as using like cephalexin, using a tablet instead of a capsule can be, give you a better reimbursement. Well, where are you going to get to know that information? I'll tell you something else that we're working on right now that, for the conference in February that we do, is there are a lot of people who don't understand their wholesaler contracts.
Absolutely.
True story.
Yep.
Yeah, don't understand the wholesaler contracts. And we are putting together a program, a system where we'll be able to identify, we can pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, you need to buy $3,000 more of generics and you'll increase your rebate by $8,000 if you do that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And that's a huge, I think that's going to be a huge innovation. Innovation isn't always about coming up with something brand new. Sometimes you can do something different for an existing period. Yep. One of the things too right now is all businesses across the country are not able to get workers. Right? People don't want to work, or they can't hire people. Mm-hmm. I mean, for you guys and for technology people, this is like Christmas year round, because the way to deal with it is innovation with technology. Yep. Where can you, if you have a limited number of people, what are they doing that can be replaced with technology or be done better with technology that would free up your people to do the people things and let technology do what technology is capable of doing. Yep. And instead of just crying about, I can't hire people, it's like, well, let's look and see what we have, because I remember my business partner in the pharmacies we own, I harped on him and I harped on him to get a robot. This was probably 15 years ago, and he refused, and then he got one. And, he went from having 5 or 6 people on and a couple of pharmacists on staff at all times for the volume he was doing. And he got the robot, and he was able to, with 2 or 3 techs and just himself, he was able to knock out the same volume. And if somebody called out sick a day, he said, we were fine. Yeah, we were fine. Yep. So we have to think and look at what technology is out there right now. Well, first of all, there's a lot of technology out there that people aren't utilizing. Yeah. You guys got a great program, and in full transparency, I have your stuff in about half my stores right now, and eventually, hope to have them all. It's unfortunate that some of these companies that have been buying up the software companies haven't really been investing in innovation and technology. And Jeff, that's your unique ability. Yeah, we got some cool stuff coming out in the next couple of months. We're so excited. But that's same. We've got that passion, just like you do, to
to help people. And
to help
I tell you,
pharmacy.
it kept me up at night during COVID. A pharmacist contacted me at 2:00 in the morning, and they're, entering. It was a new thing, going from doing 10, 15, 20 vaccines a week to doing 1,000.
Oh, yeah.
And the efficiencies that we had to create in Pioneer in order to do that. It's been a crazy year. What are you day to day? So you got a new CEO. I think you were acting CEO again for a little while. What are you doing day to day at PDS?
What is a day in the life of Dan?
Day for Dan.
One of the important things in owning a business is knowing your own limitations. There's certain things I was really, really good at, and there were a lot of things I was not. And so, one of the hardest things is for people to realize that that the business has outgrown their capabilities in some area, and they're reluctant to hire for people. I wasn't. I was always, to me, what I did, we did not have high turnover when I was running PDS but it was different. I was always looking, and this is something I want your viewers to think about. I was always thinking about, on my team, who's my weakest link? Who's my weakest link? And always filtering that weak link out and replacing them. And I said, job security is just don't become the weakest link.
Right.
And one day,
it's kind of like running from a bear.
Yeah.
Don't be the slowest.
You don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to
outrun
her.
Yes. Okay.
But one day it came to me where the weakest link was me.
Huh?
And that's, hiring a COO. Kelly was the first one I hired to replace me, and she did an amazing job and taught us new things and took us to a new way. And then it was, then you get to a certain point, and another thing I want to add is these are all my beliefs.
Okay.
This is what's true for me. It doesn't make it true for everybody else.
I got that.
This is what's true to me, is that the people and skills that got you to where you are rarely the same people and skills you need to go to the next level.
Okay.
And when you grow, it's never in a straight line. It's always you grow, you level off, you grow, you level off, you grow, you level off, and during those periods, you have to assess, what are your needs? What does the organization need to continue to grow? And I wanted to feed the organization. It was doing great things for the industry. It still is doing great things for the industry. And I'm very proud of that's what I'm most proud about my entire life's work is how many people, when you look at how many, I always ask people, how many employees do you have? And they'll say 15. And how many people are you responsible for? And they say 15. And I said, no, why don't you have a company picnic with all their families, everybody that depends on that person's income, and find out how many people. That's an awesome responsibility. And I look at it is how many owners, how many stores, how many employees, how many patients have been positively impacted by programs that PDS has created over the years, and some that have completely led to industry change. It's all about, I'm a big believer, and I tried to instill the culture into the PDS membership that life gives to the givers and takes from the takers. Yep.
That's the Amina model, right? That's the Amina model.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's Amina.
You can you get anything you want. You help enough other people get what they want.
Yeah, well, you ask Amina, she was a struggling little independent who joined PDS, came to a conference, joined PDS, and learned enough to be able to unleash her awesomeness. And, there's tremendous satisfaction. I love Amina. I love a lot of people, that have done tremendous things in our industry because they were freed up to be able to follow their dreams and their beliefs. And really, Amina's been one of those where it's clearly obvious how much impact she's had on the industry.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And just that give. So we're getting short on time. What are you most excited about? Who's the speaker you're most excited about at PDS this year?
That's what I was about to ask. I'm so excited
we're
about
actually nailing
February.
it down next week.
Okay, so we don't know yet.
Okay.
So I can't. I have my favorites, and the bottom line is, you can get football players or whatever, but we've always had people who were impactful. I think one of my favorites of all time was a fellow by the name of Ray Kurzweil. I don't know if you remember him, a little old guy, but Bill Gates called him the best at predicting the future. And right now he works at Google, right directly answers to Sergey Brin and Larry Page. And he's an enormous innovator. He was his first invention was he invented the telephone for deaf people.
Okay.
People could call, talk, and it would translate it into Braille and whatever. The music synthesizer, Siri. He's had tremendous.
Wow.
And at our conference, he said that if you can make it to 2033. You'll probably add about 15 years to your lifespan because of all the innovations in technology and science. I mean, gene therapy and CRISPR, gene editing, all those things are really picking up momentum. Certainly, COVID has helped accelerate, acceptance of new ideas in science. Magic Johnson was amazing. You were there for that, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He just hopped off the stage. Never had anybody do that before and walked around. Kevin O'Leary.
Yep. I remember Mr. Wonderful.
But I'll tell you, who was totally not like his public persona is Kevin O'Leary.
Huh.
He is the nicest, sweetest Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank.
Mm-hmm.
It's the nicest, sweetest, guys really takes an interest in everybody else. But
his favorite story of mine is his favorite story that I always repeat is his was flying with his kids. Right, he flies with his kids home to see his dad periodically, and he sits in first class, and his kids sit in the back, and his kids are like, "Dad, why do you sit up here and we sit back here?" He says, "Because you don't have any money."
I didn't remember that one.
No, I love that.
That was my favorite. He said that story then. PDS.
February, right after Valentine's, 17th to the 19th.
If you have never been to PDS, guys, you owe it to yourself to go. If you're a
level 10 energy across the board.
You're a PioneerRx customer. We have some discounts for you available. Mm-hmm. Try it at least one time, not only for the things you get to see, but the people that you're going to interact with.
Mm-hmm. Troy Trigstad says that our conference is a really great collective entrepreneurial minded pharmacist, and I'd say PDS is definitely that as well. You get to meet other entrepreneurial pharmacists that will definitely rub their energy and their smarts off on you, that you walk away with a new inspiration for how you do your business of pharmacy.
And just if those of you guys who have Pioneer, for example, Pioneer has probably about 25% of the market, probably about 45% of PDS members are on Pioneer. That tells you the kind of people who are there that you're going to interact with. So
we'll be there for sure.
And we'll be there for sure. Dan, thank you for being here. Thank you
so much
all
for joining
that you've
us.
done for the industry and your energy and
everything you've done for independent pharmacy alone.
All the money that you've helped people make and inspiration that you've been and the different conference. The PDS is probably different than any other conferences that are out there and probably one that a lot of people aspire to be like. So,
I appreciate that. Folks, I really do. But I forgot to mention one speaker that we had who blew the roof off the building. He was talking about David and Goliath.
Yeah.
And
I enjoyed that.
how that was a form of technology, how David beat Goliath.
Yeah.
And that was obviously that was you, Jeff.
One of my finer moments. Thank you for that.
That was. I mean, you're a great public speaker.
Well, thank you. I enjoy it. It's a lot of work. I appreciate when people say it's good because it's hard.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something else about public speaking that people can use in their stores. And that is the more you help others, the greater your own success will be.
Yep.
So if you focus, I always focused on doing what's best for the members, and I didn't focus on the profits because I believe profits and success are a strategic byproduct of doing the right thing.
Yep.
You do the right thing.
Amen.
Do what's best for your customers, and the rest will fall in line. You don't
Absolutely.
have to. That works in everything too.
Don't be surprised when we're saying, Dan, when we come into Boca Raton to have dinner with you and Chip. So
you're welcome, and he would love it. It'd be a lot of fun.
We had a great time.
Thank you so much, Dan.
Looking forward. So good to see you and get to know you a little bit better, and look forward to seeing you in February.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for watching the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and follow us wherever you get your podcast.
Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us reach more pharmacy professionals like you.